So obviously a lot to talk about. We have a guest. We will at the very least, what we don't end up talking about today, we will cover tomorrow. We'll have a news day. But some of the most despicable video footage I think I've ever seen. In some way, it's despicable because it was just so calm and creepy. This is Mike Pence, Vice President of the United States, with, I think, Tom Tillis and Lindsey Graham, maybe one other white senator, male senator, going in and touring the facilities at their concentration camp. And it is stunning. And after a while, you start to wonder, like, why would they release this? And then when you note that it's only men that they're showing, they're walking in, they're overseeing a cage full, and I mean full, of men from Central America who, at the beginning of this, basically said they haven't had, they need showers. Like they're not getting, there's no hygiene here. And it's eerie because they don't, the vice president, the senators don't seem to have any reaction to it. They just are sort of overlooking it, almost like they're chattel. And it's also, what is eerie about it is, part of that is because they don't go up and say, well, how's it going? There's no sense that they're looking at human beings. It looks like they are looking at animals or some commodity. It's really, really creepy. Here it is. Pause it. I mean, just like, like Pence doesn't even seem to be looking at the people. He seems to be looking at the guards. And you could see behind Pence over his right shoulder, there's a guard on a sort of an elevated tower. And he seems to be looking at the towers. And the agent, the officer, whatever you want to call him, next to him, says that they are looking to see if there's a rowdy one, and they pull him out. Here it goes.
Put the watchtowers up here. The watchtowers help us pick out anyone that gets rowdy so we can pull them out quickly.
And then the men appear to lie down, I guess, to show them that there's no room for everybody to sleep in these things. And they're lying down with these foil blankets. And my understanding about these foil blankets, and maybe someone can correct me if listeners know any more about it, but my understanding about these things, they're great if you're in a cold weather situation, because they completely trap the heat. But they're not in a great situation if you're not in a cold weather situation, which is my understanding why they're keeping it at 60 degrees in there. Because you start to sweat very quickly with these things if it's not cold enough in there. But of course, if you don't put it on, you're freezing. And you're lying on a cement floor. And here's the point. We look at this and we go, they're exposed. How could they do this? How could they show us this? How could they show us the inhumanity there. That is not a bug, folks. They want their people to see this. That's why it's just men. Because they're savvy enough to realize, like, well, kids, children, that may be a little bit too much. Because there are kids and children. There's no reason to believe they're in any better situation than these men. But when they show 380 men in what looks to me to be like half of a basketball court behind a cage in there for 40 days, no showers. When they show men to their people, to their constituents, their voters are happy. They're happy. They like it. It makes them feel good. Makes them feel like their government is doing something. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. I mean, and I don't know how far it goes. Like, this is just a weird moment to, well, it's more than that, obviously. But it's a very strange moment to experience where you start to see this type of stuff. And where does it go? Like, this is the new baseline, right? Where, and here's the bottom line. Like, I don't know. Well, look, we didn't have this level of immiseration that we were causing with people. I don't know that we've ever had it, at least in the modern times. We had internment camps with Japanese during World War II. Obama deported a lot of people, record numbers. I don't think we had anything like this. And at the very least, we certainly didn't have images of it. And that may be a failure of people like myself. It may be a failure of journalists. It may be a failure of politicians that we didn't have that awareness of it, but it certainly wasn't that bad. When the Trump administration changed and I've mentioned this before, and Jim McGovern, congressman from Worcester, Mass., said that there were decades on Twitter of U.S. asylum and immigration law upheld time and time again by U.S. courts, protects children and families seeking safe haven in the United States. These laws comply with international law, treaties, and agreements the U.S. has signed. This framework's been upheld by past Republican and Democratic administrations, including during periods when the number of migrants coming to our southern border was 2 or 3 times greater than what it is now. Then in 2017, Trump terminated the family case management program that even ICE admits was 99% effective in having these families appear before a court. We've mentioned this in the past. These people in the past would be released on essentially probation or parole and would have to return to the courts because our laws say we must grant them a hearing. And we have not put the funds in to have hearings in as expedited as a manner as Trump would want, or as the Republicans claim they want. They didn't do this when they controlled government, folks. Totally. And 99% effective in having these families appear before a court. The program cost taxpayers about $38 per day per family. In comparison, detaining families costs hundreds of dollars per day. So even if you're not compelled by the humanity or the inhumanity of locking these people up, this is a policy that is not designed to save America anything other than, I don't know, I guess in these people's minds, they're white, the purity of the white culture.
Well, I mean, I was listening to Ronald Reagan's Redirect podcast, and they did a good job pointing out, and you've alluded to this already, that part of the reason they're spending more to be cruel is because they like the propaganda value of that cruelty.
Yeah. They want those images shown not just to their people, but down in Central America. But the problem is you just can't top the difficulty that these people go through in their own home countries. It's just amazing. But you wonder, like, at what point, now that the baseline has been risen, at what point do just people sitting in Brooklyn do something about it? I don't mean, vote for somebody better or get on Twitter. Like, I don't know. I mean, there are people out there that are getting arrested, trying to block these things. I spoke to people in Philadelphia who are. Some of these interviews will be on Ring of Fire. I think we'll play them eventually on the show. People who are protesting like private detention facilities. There's one in Pennsylvania. There's 3 in the country for families, 2 in Texas, and 1 happens to be in Pennsylvania. And you can shut those things out, and the analog would be like, drug companies saying we're not going to use our drugs for capital punishment. But I don't know. I wonder how bad it has to get until you're like, wait a second, I've got to sort of like contemplate a whole different set of potential responses at this point.
Yeah, I retweeted a thread or two from some immigrant justice organizations on things people can do to get involved and help.
All right, people can head over to Jamie's Twitter feed for that.